Okay, the history of the future chart, part 5. We're at the year 2027, 2007 to us. Okay. Here we go again. The number one's on the weekly single chart. The number one's on the weekly album chart. And what was going on here? Well, for one thing, because of the events of Solaris 2, Ultimate Madness became the leader of a new Space Offense team called Space Offense 1.5 to take place between now and when Space Offense 2 is supposed to occur. They pretty much kept my Space Offense spacecraft friends, more or less. The Atari Force, Defender, Stargate, and Parsec. The main thing is they later decided to change the name from Space Defense to Space Defenders. And not really meant for Defender to take the highlight, but of all the games involved, Defender is the only one that's been updated for today's systems. Well, as far as back as the first PlayStation, it's on Williams Electronics Greatest Hits. You can find it for the GameCube, and pretty much, I think there's even Xbox versions of Williams Greatest Hits that you can still play Defender. Defender 2 is Stargate, by the way, the original name. For the Atari 2600, they kept Stargate as the name. But that's a little background info for you. Yeah, I noticed something on the overlay before I started this. That I rearranged it so that my lineup points are now indented. But I still had the week of the countdown, then the lineup points, the song on top, the album chart, and rather than mentioning the flashback songs, I was putting the flashback year on my weekly countdowns. I would identify the flashback songs here, or albums in this one's case. It turned out to be the album chart I grabbed instead of the single chart. But pretty much, that's how it rolled. And I'm not exactly sure why, but I went back to doing my year-end countdowns by pencil. I'm not exactly sure if this is when the gateway was running out of power. And I had my Dell at the time, but I didn't have the disk drive needed to run the CoStar on its DOS setup. But both this and the 2027 chart years are done in pencil. I don't know if I actually sorted the songs the old-fashioned way or not. That much I don't know. But anyway, as far as songs of the year and stuff, that went to Dare Name 5. That concept came from the G-Force episode, in which Spectra got a hold of this band called Their Name 5 and started doing the subliminal message thing with their music. And somehow April worked them into the future chart. In this case, the album that they had was Welcome to the Future. Misfits had the #1 album with Here to Stay, Beyond a Shadow of a Doubt. I think this time they end up outscoring Darkwing. Yeah. Darkwing had an album called Time for Fun, but really, it was outscored every chance that they got. Misfits came back. And the Artist of the Year went to Next. Or Next, as we like to call ourselves. Okay, into 2028. Yes, we're almost to the end of the chart. I don't think I need that. And, a lot of work here. I think I was at work. Okay, the weekly countdowns. Well, #1's from the weekly countdowns. The singles, the albums. I know it's kind of blurry. I wish it would turn out better, but I don't have time to really focus. The year countdown done in pencil again. But in this case, I did notice a minor error I did on the year countdown. I had a bunch of artists with 10 songs, but when it came to writing them down in the right sequence, I kind of sort of blew it from number 9 to number 12. I don't know if it shows up, but by the position on the middle chart, I don't have those in the right sequence. I should have had Jubilation Lay at 9, Jazzy Jammers 10, Balloon Crew at 11, and April's group, the Space Fury Invaders, at 12. Anyway, was I disappointed when my groups didn't have #1 album or group going on its line as LNH? Sort of, but I couldn't let something like that get me down. I try not to let any artists feel like I let them down without them having hits. The Song of the Year went to Jubilation Lee and the Women of Doom from High Voltage. It was April's attempt to get the X-Men involved on the chart. Turnaround's Time to Let Love In was the album. A very good collection I made there. Because I started really liking the Goo Goo Dolls after the Let Love In album came out. Can't exactly say I liked it when that group first came out with it's not coming to me what their first release was. And LNH ended up being the Artist of the Year. Here's an interesting chart here, in which it was up to the program to break a tie for the #1 album. Okay, into my last binder of future chart archives I have. The last few chart years are still in the current one. I don't know if I'll move them into this later or not. I haven't decided yet. Okay, the 2029 chart year. The weeks for the songs on top, and the weeks on top for the album chart. And this was the craziest chart year, in which Nex and Jazz and Jammers were going neck and neck every step of the way, especially when it came to album points. I wonder if I can show where they end up tying. Depends on when Nex was considered finished for the year. Oh yeah, on my album chart, I started mentioning if an artist's song dropped out but it didn't give the album enough points to make it to the top 10, I would make note of the album anyway. Like down here, the week of January 10th, 2029, I had quite a few songs or albums that gained points but didn't quite make it to the top 10. So during my future top 10 show, I would make special mention of these 3 changes outside the top 10. I thought it was kind of unique to my countdown that I did that. And normally, if a song drops out, well, for one thing, today's album charts are more based on sales or whatever. But I didn't have the luxury of that. And you can see it's a return of the countdowns being printed out. Probably on my Dell computer hooked up to a printer. Or maybe I use the computer in the kitchen to print it out. But the thing of it is, today's computers, maybe this is why I hadn't wrote them, don't use the same file, or their printer cable doesn't go in the same spot that my COBOL program says for the computer to check to do the printing. That's how come these columns aren't as neat as my first ones. Because when printed out, well, I have had to run these songs into a spreadsheet program to get them to display on my computer and print them from the spreadsheet. And that screwed up my columns very badly. And this computer won't even allow me to load up the CoStar program. I still have to load it up on my Dell computer to get the thing to work. It says it needs to be updated to some other version. Well, guess what? The CoStar program was made in the 90s. It has no updated form. As far as I know, maybe there is a CoStar program that will work with my DAF house. I just haven't found it. And since April's passing, there's no longer any need because I'm not doing the future chart anymore. I'm just having fun recapping it for you all. Well, yeah, I forget something. Okay, this is 2028 stuff. Good. Okay, so how did things turn out for 2029? Alfie by Jansen Jammers from the album Eiffel Tryon. Behind a Cybertron ended up being the song. I don't know where April got that song from. All I know is I kept having problems spelling it. It became a 10-weeker on here, and it just kept sticking around the single chart. I didn't notice how many points it got. As far as albums go, there was a tie between Next, a celebration of life and love, and Jazz the Jammers off of Beyond the Height of Cybertron. And I know my countdown split the tie, but I thought since it was a very good chart year, I'd go ahead and give Album of the Year to both. Why not? And then the Artist of the Year ended up being Next. And that was an amazing year. Okay, 2030, 5 more chart years ago. I did make an attempt on this one to realign my columns before it was printed out. But it wasn't easy. Let's just say that. So later on I decided not to. I mean, I really got these things lined up perfectly. Well, I didn't so much on the year-end countdown. I tried. Well, down that far it looks good. But the thing of it is, I tried to have it set up on for the old computers where the printer would just stop when the program was over. It wouldn't page advance. I really didn't have any control on where the page breaks were, so I tried everything I could to get to count how many lines of printer paper can have on a page. But I was still missing it somehow. Anyway, 2030. Here's songs on the top for each week. And the albums on top for each week. Wow. How I kept it straight, I don't know. Well, it was pretty much business as usual. Not much change going on with chart. I think at this time we were running 4 lineups I wish I could trace it back to when we started the 3 lineup setup. And it's not that these artists would wait until their songs would drop out, but more like where there was room on the countdown or getting close to a countdown. API would plan our next releases and just kind of run with it as it went. Sometimes I let her groups play off a lineup, sometimes my groups did, but we set up so that it was one of my groups, one of her groups, one of my groups, one of her groups, another one of her groups, one of my groups, one of her groups, and then one of my groups. Whereas artists that started the lineup ended the lineup too. And there were two back to back of the other artists in the middle of the set. And that way, we gave a good chance for it to be totally random if a song was a hit or not. We didn't fuss if a song peaked too soon or, oh man, that should have been a #1 or whatever. The only difference was whenever I had Balloon Crew re-release The Gap from their Greatest Hits album and it did rather badly. That's when I finally decided to overflow the 40. Well, that's a full 40 countdown, but I didn't overflow the 40 until maybe a year or two later. We're getting there, I can tell you that. Let's see. The overlay, weekly singles, weekly albums, the artist locator, and things like that. Okay, 2031. Wow, when we are flying. I might be able to finish off during this one, who knows? Okay, the songs that hit the top during 2030. There you are. And the albums at the top. As you can see, Next Church, What You Had. It was a year for Next. The last good year for Next. Or Next. I didn't try to line anything up for it. After running into the spreadsheet program. I would use the word processor program, but it just didn't like it. You really put up a fuss fight. This is where my lineup started resetting earlier. Instead of calling this lineup 15, I called it lineup 1 for these leftovers. Lineup 2 being these leftover songs. But I would leave reminders to myself that of the former lineup number. I accidentally print or I stapled this wrong, having the album chart on front instead of the artist chart, but still same difference. There were no big time ties during this chart year. The only thing that really happened that surprised everyone during the 2031 year was Next Will Be Together being number one song. Next, Cherish What You Have being the number one album. And Next as the number one artist. No other chart year did the same group have all three. And Overflow the 40s started. Look at this. Lineup 4 runs from number 33 to number 48. So these songs at the bottom of the countdown were numbers 49 and 50. They were still getting their point for being the last week on the chart. And at the same time, these songs were getting the point for overflowing the 40. And they would continue getting extra points for existing as a lineup until they became visible. Down here, it's lineup 4 within the countdown. I don't know if I angled it right, but I still had 4 slots left over. So we planned lineup 5 that week. The next week, it overflows 40, running from number 29 to number 44. And so on until that lap debuts. Then we have a week in between to plan our next lineup. It would overflow the 40, etc. That started helping the chart out a lot because by the time I ran the year in countdowns, let me flip to the back page. I hadn't pointed out the back page for you, so you all don't know all of it flops. But here, the lowest songs have 9 points. That means 9 weeks on our countdown, rather than 8 or 7. It just kind of looked a little bit better, knowing that our songs, I mean, we have fewer songs spending less than 10 weeks on the countdown. Okay, let me put up, 331, what are you? 2023. I'll file that later. I hope you all understand. April and I really put a lot of work into the future chart. To us, it was our good escape from reality. Not doing Pokemon or anything. In fact, these things, as you all saw, the future chart existed before Pokemon or anything else. We just kind of felt like running our own little countdown. That was 20:33. And I'm at 29 minutes. This is the last one in this folder over here. And the chart is really getting organized. I do have an older future chart folder that I used to use before this one, but it ended up wearing out on me. And it was a good one. That one is a good 20-year-old, something like that, Mead Trapper Keeper. They don't make those anymore. But to me, it kind of had things organized. But I like this binder I have using the last few chart years better. Okay. 2032's weekly countdown. Well, #1 songs and #1 albums. Wow. I can't recall anything big happening that year. Other than it's a good time to bring up Zack Attack's involvement on the future chart. They're in the Saved by the Bell series. I think when they were junior or seniors, they mentioned more about Zack Attack and Zach Morris's dream of having a group called Zack Attack. They kind of had a little future insight. Zach Morris daydreaming about his band, and Did We Ever Stand a Chance being the song that brought the group back together, refocused, and everything. And their first album in my collection features songs from the Saved by the Bell soundtrack. I think I did have them do Break a Sweat on there somewhere along the line, but it was Did We Ever Stand a Chance, released from their greatest hits album that I called This Break Feels Like Work. The album of the year went to Stingers featuring the Lip Lizards. I'm not exactly sure who April planned for the Lip Lizards to be, but the album was called Broken Glass, Broken Hearts, and Broken Dreams. I'm not exactly sure what she meant by that either. And believe it or not, her group, the Spacefaring Invaders, ended up the Artist of the Year. That's the only time in which they did so, I think. Could be wrong. I don't think they were ever Artist of the Year beyond that. Nope. Okay, I'm ready for 2023, and let me talk about this viewer folder I have for the Future Chart group rather briefly, because I do have plenty of time to finish off this history of the Future Chart. I cut it close to 45 minutes, and I know that much. Excuse me, Vitor and Optimus. But in my newer folder, let me take my lab idea out again. You see how I had divided into different lineup sets? Well, pretty much. I have folders for set 1, set 2. Oh, my groups don't have anything in here because this is how I left it. Everything completed. Her albums that, well, April's albums that didn't have a chance to hit the future charts are in here. And the off chance that the future chart makes a comeback, someone will have something to go by. Her unused albums. Set 3 has a folder, and set 4 has a folder. This way, we weren't going back and forth trying to find all of our artists within the sheet because, like I said, early on in this future charts year, I was breaking off my albums back to back to back on the same sheet of paper. Well, in this app, I wouldn't be doing it. Each artist would have their own sheet of paper to plan their albums out, and I could really tell who was doing what, who was being the big hits, and everything. What's this in that folder? I planned for a Larvae album, but they didn't really have a spot at the time. Okay, 2033. Okay, right here. Also among this, I have a slot for or a little clear thing for where I keep the overall album chart, and I kept the running total of how many future chart songs there were per year. Now I'll mention that total went down. Now I tried to do a list of how many songs each feature chart artist had each of the chart year from the beginning to whenever. I had to decide if I'm going to update that for the last few chart years or not. Anyway, I rambled on a little bit longer than I thought right there. And I guess I'll point out one of the things I did as the future chart year was winding down. I made a note of artists when they still had songs out, and when they were done, I would move them over here so I could take them off of the album chart and things like that. (2033) the songs that were on top, and the singles and the album chart. I might have to knock it off after this chart here. I think it's getting too close to the end of this file. Again, I stapled the sheet on there wrong, and the artists on the front have the albums, but pretty much same effect. There were no big time changes during that chart year. And Song of the Year went to Josie and the Pussycats from their album Paws and Claws, called Paper Bag. Mirror Image at the album of the year with Meanwhile Back at the Ranch. And the artist went to the Duke Family Singers. Okay. And I'll have one final history of the future chart file coming up.